All right, every so often we profile some of the great documentary films that are screening at Newport Film. Newport Film, a partner here with Bartholomew Town. Coming up on Thursday night at the Avon in Providence, The Lake will be screening. I'm going to read you how the film is described by Newport Film. An environmental nuclear bomb looms in Utah. Two intrepid scientists and a political insider race the clock to save their home from an unprecedented catastrophe. Again, that's coming up Thursday night at the Avon in Providence. There'll be a panel discussion to follow that I'll be moderating. We are fortunate to have Abby Ellis, the director of this really important film, joining us here on the podcast today. Abby, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
There's so many beautiful storylines we could pursue here today, but something that really struck me about your work here is that it highlights, one, the urgency of ecological disaster, frankly, not to soften it. I mean, I think it belongs there, but also that to solve these kinds of problems requires a great deal of compromise, but more than anything, coalition building. As you were making this film, how clear did it become to you that coalitions and different storylines converging on the same ultimate goal was going to be perhaps a central theme?
I think it was always where we'd hoped it would go, right? Because a coalition forming is the best case scenario in this situation. And I started filming with some scientists who might be described as, like scientists, environmentalists, and you might put them in the bucket of being on the left. And then halfway through, we actually started filming as well with government officials who are historically conservative, some of whom had been Trump appointees at times. And what became pretty clear as I was in these meetings was that both sides of the aisle had the same objective. They both wanted to save this body of water, maybe for different reasons. But what that made clear to me was that issues of our environment, and this became very real in Utah, given that this nuclear bomb, as we say, is only 5 years away, right? It's not 20 years away. And issues of the environment are not left issues or right issues, they're human issues. And, what impacts our lungs and our air quality also impacts the economy. So it's like everything gets in trouble when the environment erodes. And that became pretty obvious to everyone working here in different spaces, thankfully.
Right. Relating that to Southern New England, it's such an important notion that everything relates to everybody, that the intersectionality is not simply like, all right, let's talk about policy making for the future or different camps that can line up, whether it be industrially or whatever, politically. The reality is, when you talk about the situation described in the lake, the Great Salt Lake, this is a contemporary American ecological story that required human-powered solutions to even begin to fathom overcoming. You capture that so well. How much do you want to convey in this film to people who are watching it or even hearing about it, the urgency of the moment, not only when it comes to the Great Salt Lake, but the whole planet?
Well, I mean, I think one thing that was very interesting working on this film was that, like I said, this specific problem of the environment is really just around the corner. Whereas so often issues of climate we get predictions that they're like 20 years down the line, 30 years. And I think that's really hard for people to take seriously in their day to day. But what I was really happy to see was that when, catastrophe came knocking on the door of this place, everyone did come together in their own way. And it was a message for me, for the rest of the country and the rest of the world, that the only way out of this climate nightmare that we've found ourselves in, is if we all work together, regardless of what we're fighting for. You can't do anything if you don't have the environment. You can't do anything if you don't have a home and a planet and clean air and clean water. So, while this issue here in Utah was very near and still is very near, it's just a couple years away where it could happen. these bigger issues of climate. We've just learned that we're like in the worst case scenario zone for everything. So it's time to start the coalition building now, because by the time it comes knocking on your door, it's too late.
What we see with the lake and the coalition that you describe and capture is something that maybe wouldn't be typically thought of as your average everyday coalition, where you have the Latter-day Saints,
Right.
pretty conservative religious bloc, with people who are as devout practitioners of data and science as there are literally scientists and journalists. That amalgamation in some ways is like that's like unfathomable when you think about some of the ways that we look at America today. At the same time, it happened in real time. What was it like for you, and how important was it for you to understand the different worldviews that converged on this project, going back to each worldview, so to speak, those of
I
the
mean,
Latter-day Science?
Are you ready to take the next step in your career? At URI Online, we offer business and leadership-focused programs designed to fit your life. Whether your goal is to advance your career in fields like public administration, supply chain management, or training and development, our online programs provide the flexibility you need with a high-quality education you deserve. Learn from experienced faculty and collaborate with a network of professionals, all from the comfort of your home or wherever life takes you. Visit uri.edu/online to explore programs and start building your future today. URI Online. Learn anywhere with us.
You and your employees work hard for your customers. At HealthSource RI for Employers, we work hard for all of you. We offer access to 18 quality health insurance plans plus dental, flexible costs to meet your budget and get your staff what they need, and customized local support to guide you through it all. More than 1,200 Rhode Island employers choose health insurance through us. HealthSource RI. We work for you. HealthSourceRI.com/employers.
Bartholomew Town is brought to you in part by Newport Film. Visit newportfilm.com. As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org. Bartholomew Town is brought to you in part by Waterfire Providence. Visit waterfire.org. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communications, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com. Follow me on Instagram at Bill Bartholomew.
Yeah, it was so important. I'm not LDS, but one of our characters is an ecologist, and he's a brilliant scientist and a progressive thinker, and also a devout Mormon. And the more time I spend with him, actually, the more that made sense. And I thought that was really interesting and not something that you typically get to see at a national level when it comes to, for example, this religion, which simply preaches that, we were blessed with this planet. We need to take care of it. And he would often talk about that, and he would talk about stewardship and the environment and being an environmentalist in the context of religion. And I thought to myself, like, this is a unifying message. And often today, religion is only used to be divisive, especially in media. And I think Mormons have gotten a bad rap for a really long time. And so it's important to me that these characters in the film are dynamic, and they, have multitudes, and you can be a religious scientist. That's a thing that happens. More often than I think we would imagine. And it's great, again, going not to go back to the coalition building, but it's great for people to have multitudes. It allows them to relate with other people and to really build a movement and, bond and save something.
To that end, what did you personally learn about communicating climate science to people who view environmentalism or even frankly climate change with skepticism?
I think it's important to get to know the people you're trying to communicate with and understand triggers for them, right? I wouldn't go into farm country in Utah and try to communicate this issue by using the terms like climate change and environmentalism and conservation even. Unfortunately, we live in a climate politically where words like that have been, politicized. So instead, it's just about talking to people as people and getting a sense of what they need to survive, knowing that ultimately we all need the same thing, but figuring out how to communicate that stuff in a way that they not only understand, but can hear you. Because we don't need to preach to the choir. We need to preach to people who don't think like us, right?
Couldn't agree more. Abby Ellis, the film is The Lake, this Thursday night at Newport Film. Well, I should say presented by Newport Film at the Avon in Providence. That'll be followed by a panel discussion I'll be moderating with Terry Gray, the director of the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, Joanna Detz, she's the publisher and co-founder of EcoRI News. That's our region's leading really environmental and climate news operation. And Senator Dawn Oyer, for context, Senator Oyer, one of the co-sponsors of the Act on Climate here in Rhode Island several years ago. Abby, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Amazing film, premiered at Sundance. If people don't see it at Newport Film, where else can they expect to be able to find it?
We hope you'll be able to find it broadcast early next year.
Okay. We will look for that. Financial Well-Being, presented by Navigant Credit Union here on Bartholomew Town. This month, we're joined by Amanda LaRose to talk about education, and really financial well-being is based on education at the end of the day as a starting place. Amanda, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
What is Navigant doing in the financial education space in our community?
We have a lot of events planned right now. We are working on some small business workshops, fraud awareness seminars, and our reality fairs that we go to schools and we do life.
And when you're out in the community, what sort of reaction are you getting right now? It's a moment where we certainly know that there's a lot of affordability challenges, and that makes people look a lot of different directions. One of them might be back at themselves to think about, how do I manage in this moment? What are you hearing in terms of feedback right now?
Our members and even non-members are grateful that we're out in the community doing what we do, that we're sharing the knowledge that we have, that it's coming essentially for free to them, right? We want to help them grow and build, and that's our role. And so they're grateful that we're taking our time out of our day to share with them the resources that we have. We're the experts, and we're just giving that to them.
You have a great, really fintech operation going in Navigant. It's been ahead of its time for some time. Talk about some of the resources online that are available for people at your website, on your app, and really throughout kind of the digital realm. Navigant's got it covered.
So we partnered with a company called Balance, who helps us with our financial education piece for our members. They provide short one-on-one video resources where you can learn about buying a car or buying a house. And these videos are not going to give you the overall everything that you need to know about it. But what they're really doing is making you aware of what the next steps are and then who to reach out to as a contact and a resource.
And with that in mind, also, of course, there is the branch, which you can go into. There are plenty of them now all over the state when it comes to Navigant. Why should people come in and get sort of that next level in person?
I think a lot of times if you're driving to a website, you may see just the broad overview of everything. When you're going into the branch, they really can sit down and talk to you about what is the best puzzle piece that fits for you. And a lot of times you don't know everything, right? Or maybe you gloss over everything on our website. But we have credit counselors who are geared to just help you build credit, build a budget, repair stuff. You may not know that if you don't know what to ask the right questions. So visiting our branches, talking to the experts in that field, they're going to point you in the right direction of what the next step is for you.
And when you're interfacing with somebody, whether it's a customer, whether it's a member, whether it's someone in your life, anybody,
Hmm.
this is an area that I think can be unpleasant for some people to talk about because either they're in a stressful moment or their ambitions haven't been achieved, whatever it is. Totally reasonable. What's the best place for a person to wake up in the morning mentally to say, you know what, let me get myself organized in this space? What's that starting point look like? Why is that critical to their overall well-being?
I think in the financial education space, I am constantly talking about people what I do, right? I value what I do. Navigant values what we do. And it's just a resource for people. But I always tell people when I'm meeting with them, don't be shy. I'm never going to judge you. I don't care if you have a coffee habit or a shopping habit. But if your goal in reaching out to somebody or even just talking about it is because you want to learn or improve, then you have to be okay with getting those resources and okay with sharing all the ugly truths that are out there.
Yeah. And as we navigate unprecedented times, it's great to have partners throughout the community that are steadfast, that have been there for, let's say, decades upon decades, that have your back. As things change, you want to look back and see the mountain that's been there your whole life. Potentially that may be Navigant, and if it's not, it could be Navigant CU,
Absolutely.
navigantcu.org. Amanda LaRose, thanks so much for your time today. Great info.